Mother. She had a different name. No one has known it for around 70,000 years. She had one, for she lived among talkative and highly social people. Mother, for reasons that will become obvious, will do. She was probably young, tough, stocky, and dark-skinned. She was a traveller, part of a people always on the move. She was also heavily pregnant. Her tribespeople were hunters and expert gleaners of berries, shellfish, roots, and herbs. They carried tools and hides, and a couple of babies with them, tied with sinews and skins around adult backs, but there were surprisingly few children in the group. Those who didn't learn early to walk, keep quiet, and keep up tended to die, picked off by predators following the group. In their own way, the travellers were, however formidable, armed with spears and razor-sharp chipped stone cutting edges that had been developed over around 100,000 years of hunting, and, if they were anything like later hunter-gatherers, while fighting rival tribes. Their average age was relatively young, something that would remain true of all human societies until very recent history. But there would have been people in their 50s or 60s. It is now thought that the female menopause may have been a useful evolutionary adaptation to provide grandmothers, who could care for the young while younger women were breeding. Tribes with grandmothers would be able to support more children to adulthood, and therefore would grow at the expense of tribes without older women. The men would have been marked by hunting scars, but would be vocal and thoughtful tacticians, experienced in tracking game and exploiting their understanding of other animals. The oldest, the father of this clan, might be in his 60s. Hunters in their 30s or 40s may have been the most effective food gatherers. This group had been moving for years, slowly north, through what are now called Kenya and Somalia, towards a strip of water that looked possible to cross. The flow of water was lower than it used to be, leaving dry patches of land. Wading between them would have been a risk worth taking, because the game and the vegetation around them was getting harder to find. Life would be easier on the other side. The group would have had no idea they were about to leave one continent where all humans originated, nor any notion of just how far their descendants would walk, working their way along beaches, a mile or two every year, clearing out the shellfish and the crabs in rock pools, gorging on a beached whale, spearing ridiculously incurious goats. All life was a journey. Always a new track must be made. Ahead of them and behind them, once they had moved on, the easier prey would return, but to stay put in a single place would be unnatural and dangerous. Declare anywhere home, and you would die of hunger. So, though the water was a challenge, and everyone was watching everyone else as they waded, for the group had a language and talked about their plans, this was just another day. They were probably clothed in some way. A study of body lice DNA suggests that they were infesting clothing around 100,000 years ago, and it is thought humans lost most of their own fur millions of years ago. This group, much larger than a single family, would be accustomed to sharing out tasks, and this was directly related to the problems that started again with mother's labour pains. Like all women, she knew the birth would be painful. Ever since anyone could recall, human babies had been born with surprisingly large heads, so big that to force them out through the vagina was agonizing. Mother would give birth standing up, surrounded by her sisters. Her baby would be helpless, a wobbling, vulnerable thing for far longer than the children of other animals. It was a puzzle, about which many things would be said during the long nights of storytelling. But the vulnerability of the modern human child was a long-term strength, because it forced families and tribal groups to share out work and to cooperate. Today's hunter-gatherer societies generally have a clear division of labour between male hunters and females gathering plants, and it is likely this was already happening by Mother's time. It would be many tens of thousands of years before people realised that the big head, the relative helplessness, and the consequently painful birth added up to an evolutionary triumph